My wife laughed and said, "It was just one night. Stop acting like a victim." After I discovered she'd slept with my son's teacher, I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I agreed with her and quietly did something she never thought I'd actually do. That's what my wife snapped at me, standing in our kitchen with her arms crossed, like I was the one who'd done something wrong. I remember staring at her mouth as she said it, trying to understand how someone I'd been married to for 14 years could sound so cold, so finished, and how casually she could say it after I found out she'd slept with our son's teacher. I'm still not sure when things started going wrong. That's the part that keeps looping in my head. There wasn't one big fight or dramatic moment before everything blew up. We were normal, busy, tired, maybe a little distant in the way long-term couples get when life becomes a routine of work, school schedules, and grocery lists. But normal. We've been together since our mid-20s. We built a life slowly. House in a quiet neighborhood, one kid we absolutely doted on, weekend routines that barely changed. She always liked structure. I liked stability. It worked for a long time. Our son started middle school last year. New building, new teachers, new everything. His homeroom teacher was young, early 30s maybe, friendly in that overly enthusiastic way some teachers have. My wife mentioned him a few times early on. Nothing strange, just comments like, "He's really good with the kids," or "Our son seems more confident this year." I didn't think anything of it. Looking back now, that's the part that makes me feel stupid. Because the changes didn't start all at once. They came in pieces small enough to explain away. My wife started volunteering more at the school. At first, it was once a month. Then suddenly she was helping out every other week. She said it made her feel useful, connected. I supported it. Our schedules were flexible enough, and she seemed happier, lighter even. I thought that was a good thing. Then there was her phone. She'd always been a leave-it-on-the-counter kind of person. Suddenly it was face down, always within reach. If a notification popped up, she'd glance at it quickly and swipe it away. When I asked who kept texting her, she said it was other parents from the school group chat. Again, reasonable. I didn't push. The intimacy changed too, but not in a way that screamed affair. It was more like she was distracted, distant, sometimes overly affectionate out of nowhere, then cold the next day. I told myself it was stress. She told me it was stress. The first real crack came on a Thursday afternoon. I was home early sorting through mail at the kitchen table when she came in looking startled. Not guilty. Startled. Like she hadn't expected to see me. "You're home," she said too quickly. "Meeting got canceled," I replied. "Everything okay?" She nodded, smiled, kissed my cheek, but her hands were shaking when she put her purse down. I noticed it and hated myself for noticing it. That night, after she fell asleep, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't grab it. Not then. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint sound of her breathing and the echo of that buzz in my head. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I trusted my wife. The next few days were unbearable. Once suspicion gets planted, it grows on its own. Every late reply, every excuse, every moment she laughed at her phone and didn't share the joke with me. The moment everything finally cracked wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no sneaking around, just a stupid, ordinary mistake. She asked me to grab her phone from the living room while she was in the shower. I picked it up without thinking. As I walked toward the bathroom, the screen lit up. A message preview. Not a name, just a number I didn't recognize. Thursday can't happen again. That was a mistake. My stomach dropped. I didn't unlock the phone. I didn't need to. I stood there long enough for the screen to go dark, then placed it back exactly where I'd found it. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. That night, I didn't confront her. I watched her instead. Watched how she avoided my eyes. How she talked too much about nothing. How she fell asleep facing away from me. The next morning, after she left, I did something I'd never done in our entire marriage. I checked the phone records. There were dozens of texts and calls to that number. Late nights. Early mornings. During school hours. During times she'd said she was just busy. It took me less than 10 minutes to connect the dots. The area code. The timing. The sudden interest in school activities. Our son's teacher. When I confronted her that evening, I expected denial. Tears. Something. Anything that showed she understood what she'd done. Instead, she sighed. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She just looked tired, annoyed even, as if I'd interrupted something. Yes, she said. It happened. I asked her how long. One night, she replied. That's it. I asked her how she could do this to our family. That's when she snapped. It was just one night, she said sharply. Stop acting like a victim. Something inside me went quiet then. Not angry, not loud, just still. Because as she stood there defending herself, I realized this wasn't just about cheating. It was about who she'd become. And I hadn't even asked the question yet. That would change everything. I didn't respond right away after she said it. I remember standing there in the kitchen, one hand resting on the counter, the other clenched so tightly my nails were digging into my palm. She watched me like she was bracing for an outburst, like she was ready to roll her eyes and tell me to calm down. I didn't yell. That seemed to annoy her more. What do you mean by that? I finally asked. My voice sounded distant, even to me. She let out a sharp breath and shook her head. I mean exactly what I said. You're acting like I ruined your life. I didn't. It was a mistake. One night. It's not like I left you. I waited for the rest. The apology, the regret. It never came. You slept with our son's teacher, I said slowly. Saying it out loud made it feel heavier, uglier. Do you understand how messed up that is? She rolled her eyes, actually rolled them. Don't be dramatic. He's an adult. I'm an adult. Nothing illegal happened. That's what you're focusing on? I asked. Not the betrayal? Not our kid? She crossed her arms again, her body language closing off completely. You're blowing this way out of proportion. You're acting like I had some long-term affair. I didn't. I wasn't in love. It just happened. That phrase, it just happened, hit me harder than I expected. Like she was talking about spilling a drink, not detonating our marriage. How? I asked. How does something like that just happen? She hesitated for the first time, and I saw something flicker across her face. Not guilt. Calculation. We talked, she said. He was going through a rough time. I was too. One night after a school event, we stayed late. We had wine. It got out of hand. Where? I asked. She hesitated again. Just a beat too long. At his place. I nodded, absorbing it piece by piece. I asked questions the way someone does when they're trying not to drown. Slowly, deliberately, like if I moved too fast, everything would collapse. How long were you texting him? Not long, she said quickly. How long is not long? A few weeks, she admitted. A few weeks. While we ate dinner together, while I helped our son with homework from the same class this man taught, while she kissed me goodnight. And you planned it, I said. You didn't trip and fall into his bed. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I didn't think it would turn into anything. But it did. Yes, she snapped. And it's over. That was another thing she kept repeating. It's over. Like that erased what had already happened. Like saying it enough times would make it disappear. Did he end it? I asked quietly. Her jaw tightened. I did. I didn't believe her, but I didn't say that yet. I asked if the school knew. She said no. I asked if he was still teaching our son. She said yes, like that was somehow normal. When I told her I wasn't comfortable with that, she scoffed. You're not comfortable? You don't get to dictate everything just because you're hurt. That word again. Hurt. Like it was an inconvenience. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because she asked me to, but because I couldn't stand being next to her. I stared at the ceiling until 2 a.m, replaying everything. Every conversation. Every time she'd said she was staying late. Every time I'd trusted her. The next day, I watched her get ready like nothing had happened. Same routine. Same makeup. Same coffee mug. She kissed our son on the forehead and told him to have a good day at school. I felt sick. After they left, I sat alone in the house and realized something else that scared me even more than the cheating. She wasn't afraid of losing me. There was no panic, no scrambling to fix things. No, please don't leave. She acted like the worst part of this was my reaction, not her actions. Over the next week, her patience with me wore thinner by the day. If I asked questions, I was obsessing. If I went quiet, I was punishing her. If I brought up counseling, she said we didn't need it because she'd already moved on. Meanwhile, I started noticing things I hadn't allowed myself to see before. Her phone still never left her side. She said she'd cut contact, but the call logs didn't match her story. The numbers stopped showing up during the day, but late at night, there were missed calls. Short ones, just long enough to ring once or twice. When I asked about them, she snapped, "Are you spying on me now?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The real breaking point came when our son mentioned his teacher at dinner. "Mr. H says I'm doing really well," he said proudly. He told me to tell you thanks for volunteering so much, Mom. I watched her smile. A normal, pleasant smile, like nothing was wrong. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, where I locked the door and leaned against it, trying not to fall apart. This wasn't just about my marriage anymore. This was about protecting my kid from something he didn't even know he was standing in the middle of. That night, after our son went to bed, I told her I wanted the truth. All of it. No minimizing. No excuses. She looked at me for a long moment, then said something that made my chest tighten. What if I don't think you're entitled to all of it? That's when I realized I wasn't dealing with someone who felt remorse. I was dealing with someone who felt justified. And I still hadn't told her what I discovered earlier that day. Something she assumed I'd never find out. Something that proved this hadn't been just one night at all. I didn't tell her right away. Not that night, and not the next morning either. I slept on the couch again, staring at the same dark patch on the ceiling, letting the truth settle into me slowly instead of exploding all at once. Because earlier that day, while she was out running errands, I'd done something I should have done sooner. I called the school, not to accuse anyone, not to make a scene. I framed it carefully, asked general questions, said I was a concerned parent wanting clarity on boundaries between staff and volunteers. The woman on the phone was polite, professional, and cautious. Too cautious. Then she said something that made my stomach sink. Well, we're already aware of a situation involving that staff member. It's under internal review. I remember thanking her and hanging up, my hand shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Already aware. That meant two things. One, this wasn't isolated. And two, this wasn't as clean or as over as my wife claimed. Later that afternoon, I checked the phone records again. This time, I didn't just look at recent calls. I went back months, further than I'd dared before. The pattern was unmistakable. Texts starting casually, then daily, then constant. Calls that lined up perfectly with the nights she said she was helping at school events. Gaps that matched weekends she claimed she needed space. And one thing that erased any doubt I had left? The night she told me she'd been at a friend's house. She'd actually spent the night at a hotel 15 minutes from his apartment. When she came home that evening and found me sitting at the dining table with a folder in front of me, she froze. "What's this?" she asked. "Sit down," I said calmly. She didn't like that tone. I could tell. She hesitated, then sat across from me, arms crossed, already defensive. I slid the phone records toward her. Then the printed hotel receipt I'd pulled from our shared account. Then, finally, the email I'd received that afternoon, an official notice from the school district stating that the teacher would be placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Her face changed in stages. Confusion, recognition, then fear. "You told them?" she asked, her voice suddenly smaller. "I asked questions," I replied. "They already had answers." She stared at the papers, flipping through them like if she moved fast enough, the words might rearrange themselves into something less damning. "You said it was one night," I continued. "You said it was over. You said I was overreacting." She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "I didn't think." "No," I said gently. "You didn't care." That's when she broke. Not into sobs, into anger. "You don't get to ruin my life because you're hurt," she snapped. This could cost me everything. I looked at her for a long moment, really looked at her. "You already cost us everything," I said. "I'm just the one who stopped pretending." She accused me of being vindictive, of trying to punish her, of putting our son at risk by causing drama. That was the moment I stood up. "I'm not staying married to someone who can look at our child every day and lie this easily," I said. "And I'm not raising him in a house where accountability is optional." Told her I wanted a separation. Not a trial one. A real one. She laughed at first. Then she realized I wasn't bluffing. Over the next few weeks, reality hit her in waves. The school investigation became public. Other parents came forward. The teacher resigned. My wife was quietly removed from all volunteer activities and told not to return to campus. People stopped inviting her places. At home, the tension became unbearable. We agreed, finally, to tell our son something age-appropriate. That mom and dad were having problems, that it wasn't his fault, that he was loved. He took it better than I expected. Kids always know more than we think. The divorce wasn't dramatic. No screaming matches, no courtroom theatrics, just paperwork, mediation, and a long list of moments where I realized how much I'd been carrying alone. She tried to backpedal near the end. Said she'd been lost. Said she'd taken me for granted. Said she didn't realize how serious it was until consequences showed up. I listened. I believed she meant it. It just didn't matter anymore. Now, months later, the house is quieter. Emptier, but calmer. My son is doing well. Thriving, actually. Different teacher. Different routine. Same smile. As for my ex, I hear things through mutual friends. Regret. Embarrassment. A lot of, I didn't think it would go this far. I don't respond. Because the thing I've learned through all of this is simple and painful and freeing all at once. Cheating isn't always the worst betrayal. Sometimes it's the refusal to take responsibility afterward. And once someone shows you they're capable of that, the hardest and healthiest thing you can do is stop asking them to care and start caring about yourself instead. What makes this story so unsettling isn't just the cheating itself, it's the complete lack of accountability afterward. Infidelity is devastating on its own, but dismissing it, minimizing the damage, and putting the blame on the person who was betrayed adds another layer of harm. The moment someone tells their partner to stop acting like a victim, they're not just avoiding responsibility, they're rewriting reality to protect themselves. In the end, this wasn't about one night or one bad decision. It was about trust, boundaries, and the consequences that follow when those are ignored. Choosing to walk away wasn't an act of revenge. It was an act of self-respect, and sometimes that's the hardest choice to make.